Today's story is Two Little Boys, 10 Big Plagues, written by Carol Craven Bates and illustrated by Janet Church Hopkins. If you would like a copy of this book, there's a link for it in the description. Chapter 1. Jalen Grossman and Miko Pariah were two little boys living in Egypt during the time the Israelites were serving as slaves to the Egyptians. Jalen was born in Egypt, but belonged to a Hebrew family. He was the only child of David and Leah Grossman. The Hebrew people were sometimes referred to as Israelites or the children of Israel. Miko was the youngest son of Ramar and Ishka Pariah. He had an older brother, Qatar, and a younger sister, Zina. Miko and his family were full-fledged Egyptians and related to Pharaoh through ancient ancestry. Jalen and Miko met while fishing on the banks of the Nile River. Every day, each boy went to the river as soon as their morning chores were finished and stayed until it was time to do chores again in the evening. Jalen and Miko each had their own favorite fishing spot along the Nile, but even though they fished just a few feet apart, they seldom spoke. That all changed one day when Jalen caught a fish that was so large it wouldn't fit in his bucket. Miko just had to go over and see that glorious sight. After that, there was always an unspoken bond between the two boys. They soon started communicating much more often, and before long they became the best of friends. They started spending as much time together as they could, generally fishing. Usually Egyptians avoided having Hebrew friends. However, both sets of parents didn't mind the boys being together. Jalen and Miko lived a half-mile apart, but they would often dash from one house to the other as if they lived just next door. The boys were complete opposites in everything except fishing. In that category, they were pretty evenly matched. They both thought fishing was the only way to have fun. If one boy had chores that took too long to do, the other would help so they could have more time together at the river. On one occasion, while Jalen and Miko were spending their afternoon fishing, they started talking about the stranger that had come to town. Both boys had heard their parents discussing the newcomer. The mysterious foreigner was the hottest topic for everyone to talk about. There was a rumor going around that the new man had visited Pharaoh uninvited, which in itself was something no one was allowed to do. Besides that, he demanded that Pharaoh let the Israelites leave Egypt so they could worship their God. The children were intrigued by the bold actions of this mystery man. While Jalen landed the biggest fish he had caught in several days, Miko stated, "The name of the new guy is Moses. He dresses funny. Mom said that was because he lives in the desert. Dad told us he thought Moses has a brother living around here. His name is Aaron, I think." Excitedly, Jalen shouted, "Yeah, I know Aaron. He and my dad are friends. He has a sister that lives around here too. Her name is Miriam. I've seen her around, but no one seems to know her very well. I wonder how come Moses lives in the desert when he has family that lives right here." Miko shook his head and shrugged his shoulders. "I have no idea, but my dad said Moses and his brother got into an argument with Pharaoh. Can you believe that? I wonder what they were thinking. That could have been instant death." This time it was Miko who snagged a big fish. "Wow, look at this guy. I bet this is the biggest fish I ever caught." Jalen helped Miko get his fish secured on the ground before going back to his own pole. After throwing back a smaller fish and putting the bigger one in his wooden bucket, Miko snickered, "My dad was telling us that Aaron, the brother of the new guy, threw his walking stick down and it turned into a snake right there in the palace." At first, Pharaoh was surprised. Then he got mad. He called for his magicians and asked them if they could do that. They didn't want to look bad in front of Pharaoh, so they did some of their magic. In a little while, they threw down their walking sticks, and those became snakes too. The eyes of Jalen lit up with delight. "Wow, that would have been so exciting. I wish we could have seen all those snakes crawling all over the palace." Miko continued, "My dad also told us the snake from the rod of Aaron ate up all the other snakes. The funny part was it never even got fatter. When all the other snakes were gone, Aaron reached down and picked his snake up. When he grabbed it by the tail, it turned back into a rod again. Man, that would have been so nifty. I sure wish we could have been there. The boys continued to fish and contemplate all the fun they had missed at the palace until they noticed the sun was going down. As the sun started to set, the boys knew it was time for them to be heading home. Meeko was the first to suggest they meet at the river as early as they could in the morning and fish all day long. Jalen grinned. "You took the words right out of my mouth. But I can only stay until lunchtime. My mom plans on washing clothes tomorrow, and I always help her empty those heavy clay tubs. Those things are much too heavy for her to handle alone. I can meet you in the morning, though. Usually Mom isn't finished with the laundry until after lunch. She won't need me before then." Both boys silently pulled the line of their cane pole out of the water. Meeko picked up his bucket and admired the 3 fish he had caught. Jalen had caught only 2. One of them was almost too small to keep. He suggested Meeko take those as well. Pouring his fish in with the others, Jalen declared, "Okay, I'll see you first thing in the morning." The boys said goodbye and went straight home.